So, as you've probably heard, formerly Prince Andrew, the brother of King Charles, was arrested today on his birthday. Today's his birthday. Talk about karma. For apparently they couldn't get him on what he did to Virginia and other victims from the redacted files, but they could get him on basically handing over sensitive materials to Jeffrey Epstein. So they got him on that. And that's what the arrest is about. And apparently King Charles is he's so disgusted by his brother Andrew that they knew that the arrest was coming. This is kind of like the mafia, the Italian mafia. And this is what people don't understand. When the Italian mafia was being hunted, they couldn't prove their crimes. So they got them on tax evasion. That's how they got them down. And then the rest started collapsing. So for people, getting upset that he's not being arrested for the right crime, which is abuse of children, allegedly, possibly babies. And we know, and we've seen, even to some level of redaction, the most horrific things that are beyond imagining. So little by little around the world, men are getting arrested. And for people, and there's a new movement, which is really, I'm in shock, where women are trying to support Ghislaine Maxwell for, literally being the pimp, going out and finding young girls, very, very young, and probably boys, and very much a part of the incredible evil that includes the consummation of flesh, of children, babies. But there are women out there who think that Ghislaine Maxwell is a victim of the patriarchy. You can't make this shit up at how dumb a lot of these women out there are. That's why I did a video, which is on my YouTube, on when women pimp their own children. I don't care if the patriarchy is above the matriarchy, because there's too many us women out here living hand to mouth who would never do that. So there's no excuse to be part of the machine that harms the most innocent and the most vulnerable. But he's been arrested, and they'll start, he might actually divulge names and details finally. But karma will take her time. But karma always comes. She never misses her mark. It doesn't matter what's happening to you personally. It doesn't matter what happens in the world. We have dealt with the held breath of justice for the last 2,000 years, if not 3,000 years. And so things are shifting. Don Lemon, who I love and I follow, had a pastor on who actually was naive. And I'm sorry, I take objections to that, and I'll tell you why. Because what kind of pastor what good are you if you're not streetwise as a pastor? What good are you? To actually not believe this was actually happening, to actually have a hard time digesting what was happening. And I kept saying in the live, connect with David Icke. Because David Icke, and I keep bringing him up again and again, because he is the only one with some renown who was talking about this shit way back, way back, when everyone thought he was funny. And the spiritual community, Don Lemon, has a lot more, and not all spiritual people in the community know shit, but many of us know a lot more than you believe. And we're not going to fucking sidestep with using elegant words to talk about the shit that's been going on for decades. And it's not like there weren't journalists writing about the Afghan dancing boys. There's a you'll see, I've reposted it actually, on some piece of shit, forgot his name, who literally traveled to Afghanistan to get his hit on boys. Okay? They're going to other countries to harm boys, and then we have what we call, quote unquote, the immigration problem, based on people trying to have a life like you want your life. You want peace, you want food, you want shelter, just all the things you want. And they're fleeing these countries where these reptilians, what you'll call elite pedos, are going to get their fill of whatever deviancy they want, and then run back to the Western world and go to Savile Row to get their suits made and their ties made and their shoes handmade. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you do not know what again, I hate the word elite. I will call them reptilians. Reptilians equals elites. These reptilians and how they live. I knew a lot, but I didn't know that some high-ranking official would decide that a good vacation would be going to Afghan to get his fill of the dancing boys. It boggles the mind. It boggles the mind. And the abuses that people have looked away on. And I've done 2 videos so far. This is my 3rd. And you may want to look at them because I remember telling my son about the magazine, the pedo magazine, Racks, in Amsterdam. And I'm going to repeat it again and again because many of you won't watch the other shows that I've done, the other talks, on how this was right there on every street corner in Amsterdam. You could get yourself a pedo mag of children on the cover, and you can let your mind run through that one. And that was normalized in the 1970s. So rather than wringing your neck and clutching your pearls, these pastors out here, get yourself a fucking education. Talk to spiritualists who are streetwise and street smart. Talk to elders from other foreign countries that can tell you what was normalized, so that you understand how these reptilians move through the world and get their fill, and how they have been untouchable until now. And so the good news is, and this is really where we have to be grateful, and I'm not kidding when I say that, because what I'm seeing is people going, I wish we could go back to the 1980s. Why? What, you didn't think this was happening? Of course it was happening. It was happening to levels that were still insanely violent to children. What do you think, people just started eating them just recently? And so what's happening is we don't want to go back to the 1980s where we were fucking asleep. Even us who were streetwise on the corruption. We don't want to go back to that timeline. We want to go through the mountain, literally through the mountain to the other side, where this is finally over, where this is done. The Chinese have a solution. It's pretty violent. If you're a pedo, you're not going to survive another month. Let's put it that way. That's their solution in China. So I will say to anybody who thinks this is a good argument to talk about adults who will have an attraction to minors, however you want to fucking spin it, not happening. See, the problem is, what you didn't realize is that there were so many victims all over the world, those who have been openly talking about it and those who have hidden it in the shelters of the addict, of their minds. But there's so many victims on various levels of victimhood that none of us want this to happen to children, to the future of our generations to come. And so we're done. And what's incredibly powerful about us is that we have nothing to lose. None of us. We're all ready to let it all fucking go down. We don't give a fuck. Because to hold something up that supplies pedos with their deviant, it seems like bottomless, hunger for harming children, we're not interested. If that's the cost, we don't give a fuck. Let it go. Let's do a reset. You want a reset of New World Order, and we want a reset. It's called New Earth, 5D consciousness. Your New World Order is completely against our philosophy of 5D consciousness and New Earth. You see? And there's more of us than you. Much more of us than you. And men who are the predominant predators of these acts, I'm just going to say it, while women pimp for them or also develop, the same hungers, okay, who work with them, shoulder to shoulder. Ghislaine Maxwell was not a victim. And I wish women would shut the fuck up and stop actually becoming... She's not Joan of Arc, you fucking dumbass little bitches. This is not it. As a matter of fact, in the background of this fucking photo that's very famous, Ghislaine Maxwell is smiling back in the camera. There's a reason why we have movies called Mean Girls, and we have fairy tales with Snow White, who's hated by her stepmother, and the stepmother stories, and this act against young girls coming into their flush of beauty from older women. This is played out with mother-daughter. This is played out in these fairy tales. And it's a warning to us as women to stop fucking competing with women and stop harming little girls and teenage girls. And to stand with these children. Okay? This shit is insane. The level of toxicity that women still will not fucking embrace as a fact. To the point where they're making the serial Killer, this woman with the rotten teeth, a fucking poster child of female liberation. A woman that took out 7 men's lives because she was abused. That's your poster child, you dumbass? You should be ashamed. And the trouble is that these women are supplying an energy of corruption and deviancy because a killer doesn't want to create another killer. In other words, you're becoming the very thing you hate. And toxicity, whether it's in the female gender or the male gender, is never going to be a match to the new earth. And this is the problem, is that the solutions are 3D templates again and again and again. And I was texting, or, in his live, Don Lemon's live, go to David Icke. Stop talking to these pastors. Because you see, David Icke was talking about this, and he was being booed off stages. He was being laughed at. They were calling him a wanker. They were throwing fucking food at him when it was not popular to talk about. So now these pastors have decided it's okay now to talk about this when they should have been talking about this 10 fucking years ago. 15, 20, 30 years ago. Instead of moving the ones who had abused children from one parish to another, moving them. The system has worked to this level until today because of people hiding and allowing and shielding the predators because of their status. And it now ends. So why the fuck do you want to go back to the 1980s? What's there? Oh, we could go on the bike and we could, be outside and climb trees. We created a planet where we're terrified of letting our kids walk to school. We've created a planet where we don't want our kids outside unless we can see them. And if we lower our gaze for a minute washing dishes from the kitchen window, our kid could disappear. We created that world. But you want to go back to the 80s when that was happening. Kids were disappearing. Where were you when this was happening? They're doing social experiments with kids are being grabbed on the street. Have you seen those videos? I've reposted them. And people are just sitting there on their phone looking like confused. One scene of a man trying to go to help this child and his wife or girlfriend grabbing him saying, "Don't get involved." Women. If it was me and my son, me and my man walking down the street and we saw a kid being grabbed, he'd have to push me back. We'd both be going after the motherfucker. But the social experiment shows again and again that these children are being grabbed right daylight, right in front of crowds, walking back and forth. Nothing is done. One woman had her baby carriage. Another woman picked up her kid in her arm and went into that alleyway to see if she could help the kid. But the majority of the people kept walking. None of my business. Nothing to see here. Oh, I just saw a little 9-year-old black boy being grabbed by a white man. Clearly, that's not his child. Nothing to see here. Let's keep moving. There's a reason why this shit's been going on for so long. I just shared it. Violation of TikTok. We will remove your visibility. And I remember one day, I'm going to tell you a story, speaking of which, where I lowered my eyes in the garden watching my 5-year-old son. And suddenly he was not, I was right there in the garden. I was planting roses. I turned my back, lowered my gaze, and turned around. He was gone. We freaked the fuck out. I'm starting to yell. And I see a white van, suddenly barreling down the street. And we are running, my husband and I running, pell-mell. He kept running. I never felt so sick in my life. There's a part of me that wanted to fucking collapse. And a part of me that the adrenaline was shooting through my whole system. It turned out my son had climbed into the 1968 Mustang that was right there in an enclosed garden, cul-de-sac type of, dwelling, no other exits. And he was so short, we couldn't see him over the steering wheel, so we didn't even know he was in the car. And I found him, and I had to run after my husband saying, he's here, he's safe, he's here. That's the world we've lived in for a long, long time. It was that truth in the 70s. It was that truth in the 60s. I talked about my mom being almost trafficked in the 1950s in Paris, France. I talked about it in detail. But you want to go back to the 80s where it was so much simpler. Let me tell you something about the 70s. And I was being accosted by grown-ass men at 13, 14 years old to go to parties. For some strange reason, I was raised by my parents to literally listen to this advice. Don't go anywhere with strangers. Don't go in their car. Don't take their candy. Don't help them for shit. Adults don't need fucking help from children. I actually took that to heart. That's what saved my life. I can't tell you how many countless times that I had to say no. But you want to go back to the 60s and 70s when things were so much better. No, things were sheltered. These predators were hidden. These predators were doing what they've always done. And what has become egregiously obvious to me is porn in the internet has made it even more rank with men. Men are getting their brains rewired in the root chakra in ways that we can't fathom. Deviancies that and again, I keep bringing up 50 Shades of Grey and other deviant books. And it's a deviant book, I'm sorry. It's a series of books that are deviant. I remember women writing erotica on women falling in love with beasts. Beasts. Okay? Animalistic. We need to heal our root chakra. Our sexual chakras are so fucked on the collective system. It's not even funny. And all of you are responsible for that. I am too, by the way. And I've spent my 6 decades on this planet to fucking look at what happened to me as a child and fucking fix it. You will always partner with people who are fucked up in the root chakra in some capacity. And men need to seriously take it to heart. Don't fucking do porn anymore. Because porn is controlled by the oligarchs of a certain sect of people. I'll just say it that way. I'm not going to be not going to fucking hold back. Because they can remotely fucking control your dick. So I would be pissed if somebody held onto my nuts remotely for decades if I were you. If I was a man, it would piss me off. And I would do whatever it would take to never be controlled remotely there by anyone. It puts you down the rabbit hole of weird shit, and you know that. And don't bullshit any woman. I know that. You will go through the whole hallways in the internet of black rooms, dark web, and red rooms. And you know that. And you won't back away. You won't go, oh, fuck, no, not that. You need to rewire your brain so that you become a powerful human being on this planet. So when people tell me, oh, I want to go back to the 70s, why? All there was ignorance. Ignorance and drugs. And this false idea of free love. You know, the only good thing that happened in the 70s, women got to fucking be looked at and treated with some level of dignity that now they could actually get a credit card, get a loan, and get a job that might pay them something similar to a man. That's probably the only good thing. We don't need to go back to a time of ignorance and denial and deviancy hidden in the shadows as normal. And shame, massive shame. If anything at all, my takeaway from that is shame. Again, I would ask you to look at the movie Dr. Kinsey. It's called Kinsey with Liam Neeson. And the takeaway isn't good. He didn't win. He went from being a 40-year-old virgin to studying human sexuality with his famous groundbreaking book, Male Sexuality, in 1959. That's when it came out. And if you watch the movie, you should watch it with 5D eyes and go, what the fuck happened to that guy? And I've talked about that movie again and again. It's a very difficult movie to watch. Because in the end, he doesn't learn anything about sacred sexuality. He becomes a freak. And you'll see what I mean. However, he starts the Kinsey Institute because no one wanted to talk about sex. And when you see the first opening scenes of him being a virgin, then eventually marrying and not knowing how to have sex, I'm not joking. Not everyone lived on a farm. And literally grown-ass adults not knowing what was what with what. I'm not kidding. That's 1950s. It shocked me because I didn't know people were that dumb. You would think it would be a natural occurrence. Sensuality would just take over. And eventually they'd figure it out. I mean, how can you not? But no, they didn't know what to do. So he had a consulting practice to help people in their marriage because they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to get pregnant. I'm not joking. So why do you want to go back? Go back to what? Ignorance, shame, deviancy? We're going forward into a new age because there's no other way. Because this system cannot continue. It has fractured too many souls. And imagine, I mean, if you could just remember all your reincarnations, just the energies of it, and how many times you were harmed sexually for various fucking reasons across timelines, you would realize that this planet and our souls can't continue living like this. We cannot continue in the loosh. Because you see, we're not just becoming the postman or the milkman or the senator or the painter or the architect. There's a lot that goes in between those days and hours of abuse and despair. And to go on again, another life, another assault on a child. We can't continue living like this and incarnating like this on a system that protects reptilians. I refuse to call them elite. There's nothing elite about them. They're not above you, they're not better than you, and they're not more successful than you. There's an old saying, some people are so poor they're billionaires. There you go. Some people are so poor, they're billionaires. And that's not money shaming. That's a fact. Because billionaires is connected to fear. Fear of sharing wealth. Fear of changing the world. All of these billionaires could write a check to, if all of them wrote a check today, the planet would go through a massive 45-day fucking reset that would blow your mind. They don't want that. They want to be elite. They want to be above you. They want to be above the law, above natural law, men's laws, and so on. I mean, you got to fucking understand what the fuck's going on, man. Instead of, I miss the 80s. We could do all these things. Really? What things were we doing that was so great? Instead of building a world. And this is what I've been telling my clients when they go on these retreats. When you go on a yoga retreat, a plant medicine retreat, any fucking retreat, you know what happens to you? You get through a reset, but you know what else happens to you? Community. People cooking in the kitchen together. The food is bright. The food is pure. It's organic. Pure water, herbal teas, good coffee. You're sitting there with people in hammocks and gardens after having a session with your guru or whoever the hell's your healer. And you're living slow. You're not bored. There's no TV. Some places there's not even any internet, and you're not missing it. You're like, my God, I feel so good like that. Do you know what I tell my clients? That's 5D living. What you're experiencing in these little retreats is what 5D is going to look like for the rest of your life. These retreats are interesting because they were created by systems in the spiritual community to help heal people. But they also gave you an eagle's eye view and a real tactile idea of what 5D looks like. That's why when you go back into the world of 3D, you fucking crash out. 5D is very simple. We could create it overnight. The billionaires could write checks, we could be created, or we unplug, starve the beast. Starve the beast means you don't feed the beast. We become absolutely independent from the machine, and we become a community together. And do you think we're going to have pedos in our ranks? If anybody walks in with the charm to blindfold us for a minute, it won't last long. I'll tell you that. See, in communities, you have to fly right or you're fucking out. And if you're out, you're fucked. That's what it was always in the ancient world. People didn't fucking play around. If you violated a woman, if a man did that, he'd be thrown out of the village. What, do you think they applauded him? Bravo. You got what you wanted. Do you think that any of that was acceptable? No, the father would step in. The sons would step in. The entire village would step in and go, you're out. And you're lucky you're walking out of here with your life. Do you understand? So we have to make decisions. And we have to make decisions fast. And we have to have family meetings. And if you realize you're sitting across from someone who actually is delusional, then I guess they're not part of your family. They may be related to you with DNA and bloodlines, but they're not your family, my friend. Understand what family really means. It doesn't mean you share the last name or the same fucking lineage. It means what it means. We have to be strong. And we have to realize why this whole collapse and exposure is happening. And we have to say thank you to the universe. Thank you for exposing these motherfuckers. Thank you for showing us what's this been all about. Thank you for putting this. And thank you for allowing many of us to put such pressure that they better fucking show justice or we're not going to take it. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Arrests are being made. People are stepping down. And that's just the beginning. 5D is literally escorting us into her new earth. But it had to take this. Don't you get it? It was important. And it will continue to unravel itself. It is absolutely important what we're going through right now as witnesses to the horror. Because you're empaths. That's why you feel it in your bones. Meanwhile, we've got people who are harming people just for the fuck of it. Just because it's fun. Just because it's boring. If you put these kind of reptilians in a, in a retreat, you know what would happen? Well, the first thing that would happen is some of you would actually pick up on, this person's creepy, man. I don't even want to be around them. You'd smell it, and feel their evil. And eventually, they'd say something absolutely so fucking outrageous, so creepy, so deviant. One of you would pop off. Maybe even slam them in the face with a slap or a punch. Because I think we're there as a people. Or you would go to the healer, the whoever facilitator, and go, I don't know about you, but if you don't get him out or her out, like a Ghislaine Maxwell, I'm out. And other people would follow suit. And the person would say, wait, I'm about to lose 20 people from my retreat, or I can get rid of this person. Let me get rid of this person. Let me just tell them it's not working out. That's our power. That's our power. And that's where you come in. This is where you come in and you ask the right questions. And you push back against the machine. And you basically say, I do not consent to this. I'm grateful for the revelations. And I would say to you, go to David. I'm really pushing David Icke. In the last 3 or 4 videos, I'm pushing David Icke. Because he's the one. He was talking about this shit when no one would listen. He might have 300-400 people buy his tickets. Okay, 300-400 people buy his tickets. When there were 7 billion people on the planet. When there was 8 billion people on the planet. And people still don't know who the fuck he is. Oh, it's a conspiracy theorist. Bring in your tinfoil hats. It's like, yeah, that's right. Tinfoil hats. Crystals on our crown chakra. So we could download information. So that our guides could show us. So we could remote view. So we could see things that we needed to see. To understand the nature of people calling this a prison planet. Well, it's not a prison planet if we fucking break out and create a new world, is it? So it's almost this abject fucking pathetic. Oh, well, it's a prison planet. I hate this place. I don't want to come back here. You fucking crybaby. Be the solution instead of being a slave to it. Be the solution. It's a prison planet for those who consent to it. It certainly isn't my prison planet. In fact, it's not a prison planet at all. It's an incredible planet run by fucking pieces of shit. And we don't need to have it run by anyone at all. What do you think the Native Americans did? How do you think they actually lived, nomadically traveling from one part of this great country to another, following the buffalo, following the weather? You know? How do you think they did it? Why did they thrive for thousands of years? What did the Africans do? Certain tribes, like the Maasai. I mean, come on, man. Let's look at best practices. What do you think the Vikings did? The Druids? What are we doing here, thinking that the last 250 years defined our entire fucking civilizations for thousands of years? This is insane. There's always been 5D pockets in this planet. There's always been people who lived a free, honest, unmolested life, for real. And what we've accepted in the last, say, 1,000 years, I'd say farther, 2,000 years, in parts of the Western world, is insane. Insane. You watch a movie like Mutiny on the Bounty when they come across this island with Polynesian people, and these sailors have never been around people who lived free. A contrast to their orthodox 3D toxic template to the Polynesian lifestyle. Isn't that interesting? You know, when you start really fucking paying attention to movies and books you've read, you start realizing they've been telling us, and maybe through channeling, through writers, screenplay writers, and whatever, you know, other means, they have been showing us what it was meant to be. I remember a story of Paul Gauguin, who was a contemporary friend, well, frenemy of Van Gogh, who went to Tahiti expecting Eden and saw the damage, or the orthodox religions. Women weren't walking around bare-breasted anymore. Women were fully, up to their fucking necks and completely oppressed by this new religion, right? Relatively new. And so he decided to paint what he had expected to see in Tahiti. That's why his paintings look like they do. Certainly he was not painting the people of the time. He was painting what had been destroyed, bound up. They had taken an island of heaven and turned it into a prison island. Do you get what I'm saying? So there's a lot we need to deconstruct. There's a lot of mind fuckery that we have to literally purge out of ourselves. And that's not about fucking and dropping acid. It's about fucking being consciously awake. It's not what happened in the 60s. It was a failure. And it was a failure because people were too high to fucking be conscious. Does that make sense? We need to be sober, calm, in our meditations, in connecting with the light beings or our divine guides, connecting to God, connecting to old avatars like Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, Buddha, Krishna, Radha, Rama, Shiva, whatever, Isis, Lilith. But whatever you decide to do it with a sober mind and a sober heart and a sober soul. Sober means clear-headed. It means your root chakra is cleared or clearing itself. Like a vortex, like literally flushing down all the shit that no longer serves you. And downloading beautiful truths, accessing, plugging into the great hall of the Akashic Records. I don't want to go back to the 80s. I don't want to go back to the 1920s Paris or the generations before that. I want to go where we're going right now. And the price is heavy. The psychological price of being exposed to the Epstein file, when there are all kinds of files. There's Wi-Fi files and Wafu files and Zebra files and Zorro files and God knows how many fucking files that have been left unchecked for at least 2,000 years. So this is it. You wanted your freedom. Did you think it was going to be free? Did you think justice to those who were abused, molested, and killed? Did you think that they would never have justice? That karmically this was going to happen? It needed to happen, and it is happening. The fall of these reptilians is upon us. And you need to understand why this is part of the journey. And it's a beautiful journey. And again, can you imagine? We all volunteered to be here for this moment. You might shake your head, no, I never wanted to be born here. Oh, really? Really? Grow the fuck up. What are you, 12? Grow up. Your little ego is telling you what you think. You think what your ego says is the truth. Talk to your soul. When was the last time you did that? Talk to your soul. Your soul will clear you up. Your soul will set you straight. Your soul is immortal. It has time. It will sit in your ignorance for 10,000 lifetimes and not say a fucking word until you ask your soul to speak to you. That's the nature of souls. They're very interesting. They're very calm. They're never afraid. They don't give a fuck. They don't care if you're in this body, out of this body, in a new body. They don't give a fuck. These souls that we have are extraordinary. But they're not going to push their wisdom to you until you tell your ego, your false ego, your petty little monkey mind, to shut the fuck up so you can listen to your souls. And this is why we practice meditation. We practice meditation, and I'm seeing a lot of people in the New Age community saying, yeah, there's no need for meditation. Yeah, people are still stressed out with meditation. No, actually, people without meditation would have nervous breakdowns and hospitalized. What keeps many of us together is meditation, daily practices of chanting. It's what keeps us out of the pharmaceutical machine, just so you know. So do your thing. Do you, boo. Or fucking wake up and realize that every single move going on right now, including Andrew being arrested today on his birthday. Happy birthday, Andrew. Did you really think that you could fuck little girls and get away with it? Well, I guess not. But whatever, how they arrested him, again, isn't about that. And women are getting pissed off because women, stop being women for a minute. Be strategic. Be smart. Think like a singular lane, like men. Men have singular lanes, which isn't great, in my opinion. But for a minute, stop multitasking. The way to get him is through this concept of he was a traitor. He gave away information that he should never have done. That's why they arrested him. They're going to do research and investigate as to exactly what the fuck he did. But he's arrested. And eventually they'll get him for this if he opens his mouth to implicate other people, if that's what he does. Whatever he does, the point is, he's in custody right now. You're about to get ready for the weekend, my friend. And he's wondering where he's going to spend his weekend. Could be in detention, or it could be back home where he's released under certain rules. But I'm going to tell you something. He's a nasty piece of work, Andrew. Because when he was sent to this new dwelling, he complained over its size and over the fact that it's fuddy-duddy. Not realizing that there are people right now living in boxes in Hong Kong, living in boxes in New York City. You know, literally, I'm not kidding, boxes where they can't even lay their whole body across the side of the wall. They're literally paying $1,000 a month to live in a closet. It's a small walk-in closet. They're doing that to people in Paris, in New York City, in parts of, like I said, Hong Kong, and so on. But this ungrateful little piece of shit, who his own mother never slapped him across the face to say, how dare you? Queen Elizabeth must have known. There's no way she didn't know. She would have known exactly what this piece of shit was doing. And she did nothing. So I don't want to hear about matriarchy anymore. I want to hear about women would be better leaders. I want to hear we need good people to lead the planet. I don't need fucking Queen Elizabeth, Margaret Thatcher's, Ghislaine Maxwell, Terry Shields, Brooke Shields' mother, who pimped her out, which I did a whole thing on it under the Lolita video I did. You can check it out. I don't want to hear that shit. The soul is androgynous. The soul walks into a gender for purposes that only the soul knows. I want to be a girl in this incarnation. Why? Well, because I don't want to be a victim to men. Oh, okay. What does that mean? Well, I think this time I'm going to be gay. I'm going to grow up gay. I'm just going to be gay. I'm going to know I'm gay at 3, and I'm going to have relationships with women because women I can trust. What happens? Well, this beautiful young girl grows up to be in her 20s, and she has lovers that are women, and she realizes that a lot of these women are as fucked up as men. Just as fucked up. She's being physically abused too by women. She realizes that the grass wasn't greener, but what is she going to do? And she realizes that it's people. The soul grows up to realize, my God, I thought with women I would be better cared for. I love women. I love men. But you know how I simplify it? I love good people. I don't care what's between your thighs. I don't care if you like to wear dresses, if you're a guy. I don't care if you're going through a sex change, a gender change, if you're a guy or a girl. Are you a fucking good human being? And are you clear that the only person you should have sex with is someone that is in your age range? Legal. Not barely legal, but fucking legal. If that's your truth, that you're into appropriate relationships with fucking people your age or older or a little younger, but certainly not 20, 30 years younger than you, we're good to go. Do you realize torturing human beings is bad? Yes. You realize torturing animals is bad? Yes. Good. We're good to go. I don't know where the lack of common sense is here. I know that we're so busy trying to be politically correct that we've forgotten how to fucking just... And there are people that actually could say what I just said in a vulgar way, in a very rough way, probably better than me, but then again, would you understand it? Would people understand it? Because there's word salad. There's these elegant words, put together like embroidery. Like, you know what I love about poetry written by men and women with a rough fucking mouth? Is it's clear as fuck what they just said. If I want to read Shakespeare, which I adore, I'll read Shakespeare. Thank you very much. But what I want is clear dialect, clear discussions about our trauma. We can't play with words anymore. We need to be... Do you get me? Yes, I get you. Good. I could have said it nicer, but here it is. You know what's interesting about twin flames? It's the only time I'm going to mention it on this one. There was a man, I've mentioned him before, who was straight as a fucking... Loved women, loved tits and ass. Loved women. And he came across a man 10 years younger than him, and he fell in love with that man. And I said, well, are you now realizing you were gay? No, I don't want to have sex with any other man but him. He's the only man. What does that mean? He said to me. I said, you met your high-level soulmate, twin flame, in the same gender to get over the fact that sex is about what somebody appears physically. You had this idea that love would walk through the door in the opposite gender. You had an idea that love would walk through the door in a certain packaged way. Be them, if you're black, a black man. If you're white, a white man. If you're Asian, an Asian man. But suddenly all that, and fuck, he walked in as a man of another race, and he's a man. Because he's a soul bond. It's a fucking pedos who just want to harm children and want to torture them and take whatever they want from those kids. Do you see how now sex has become a sacrament, sacred, gorgeous, fabulous, beautiful, and genderless, colorless, with no religious problems? And yet all of these things clash with people because they have been set by a society that tells them that this is how it should be. And then the soul appears saying, none of this is true. Only love is real. The rest is a fucking figment of your imagination, controlled by a society that tells you what is normal and what is not. All of this collapse is necessary for you to get to the truth of what is really, truly, crucially important to your soul's development. You don't have to, and I've been telling people, protect your peace. Unless you're one of these rubberneckers who likes to see car accidents, pileups, and you just want to see all the details of the macabre, visions of somebody mangled in a car. Why would you go all the way down the rabbit hole? I think there are certain souls that are built for this. And they're gathering as much shit as possible so that it can never be denied. But I think you should kind of graze through this, as I have. Unfortunately, I've known about this shit for so long, it's stupid. Decades. And as you get older, as I have, it gets harder and harder to go 9 to 5. And many of you are realizing that you're being pushed to have your own business, to be consultants of health, mental health, spiritual health, physical health. In other words, you're being shown that there's a new way for you to be of service to the world, make a living, maybe not as much, maybe for some of you, not as much as what you're used to making. Maybe for some of you, a shitload more, or even maybe even the same. But for many of you, the transitions are necessary. And honestly, I'm happy to be here. I'm joyous to be here. I feel so grateful that I get to see the unraveling of the reptilians' fist across timelines. They have harmed her for so long. I go back to, thank you, TikTok. Just keep, breaking, TikTok, what they're doing is removing my visibility to this live. So if you want to share this live, you can do it, but I don't know if people can see it. But what they do is they make sure that for 10 minutes, no one can see I'm on this live. Number one. Number two, they've done it already 3 times, by the way. So 30 minutes. So if I'm in there for 45 minutes, for 30 minutes of that 45 minutes, no one saw I wasn't alive. That's number one, which is fine. All of us who are being shadow banned and followed and watched by other reptilians, it's a real thing. It's not paranoia. It's documented because of the algorithm, and you can actually see who's following you. What country in particular is following you? I know you guys are watching, and I find it ironic that I'm being watched by little old me here, little old me, with maybe 5 people on this live. It's hysterical to me. That's how important all of us magnify little old me times 144,000, and they fear us. Little old me times 144,000 of us, speaking the same foot to ass truth. So going back to my vision of the reptilians and the sexual trauma that we have carried for thousands of years, people love to talk about Charlemagne. Oh, I'm a descendant of Charlemagne. Let me tell you what was happening, just to remind you of the movie Braveheart. And and I'm bringing this up because I'm seeing a lot of people doing like happy endings of William Wallace and his wife, which I think is sweet. They kind of want the happy ending with Gladiator Maximus and his wife. And they want to think that when William Wallace was, basically quartered and his entrails pulled out of him and so on and so forth, if you remember that last scene, that in heaven he was able to be with his wife and have a son and ride horseback and all of that. But let me remind you why he married her in secret. Because the reptilians for almost 1,200 years had a system called serfdom. People talk about serfdom, why Robin Hood became a myth, if you will, kind of like a Superman. It was the Superman of the Middle Ages. There was such men. But serfdom included the fact that if you married your wife publicly, that the lord of the land would have first rights to her virginity. That's sexual trauma that continues generationally to all of us who lived or who have a bloodline connected to Europe. France, England, Ireland, and other countries that I can't think of right now that might have been involved in such serfdom systems of oppression where the wife, her virginity, was given to the lord of the land. It was called le droit du seigneur, the right of the Lord. And if she was ovulating, you can put 2 and 2 together. Okay, so we are now, so is that an Epstein file? Because, that is an Epstein thing, isn't it? And that's just the tip of the iceberg. What else were they doing? We know about the boarding schools with the Native American indigenous people here, and we know how they were also abused. 1923, the writer of Yellowstone, I highly recommend the show 1923 because of the Native American story of the boarding school with the nuns. You'll see what I mean. It's hard as fuck to watch. And then you can watch 1883 only because you see a sense of respect to some of the settlers who came. They did not see Native Americans as animals. They just saw themselves as being able to go and own and just staking land, right? And taking land. And how the Native Americans didn't understand the concept of ownership of land. Okay? So my point to you is that when we move into 5D, we cannot have these people, these reptilians, part of the mission of this new consciousness. And so, of course, they're going to be exposed. And of course, they're going to be, they're going to be toppled over. And systems, a lot of the books that are being, that have been written, like The History of America by Howard Zinn and Black History, and some of the things that are being exposed against women and African Americans who came here, many of them, most of them came here in chains. Let's be honest. Let's not play games, and the breeding farms and so on and so forth. I remember there was a coach, a very famous coach. I'm trying to remember. I think he was Irish. And he made a comment that the reason why black athletes were so amazing is they had been, many of them, the download was breeding farms. And oh my God, his career was ended. I'm not joking. And yet this is a fact, unfortunately. They were breeding us like cattle, lightening our skin so we would be open market. So there was mulatto, which is an absolute insult. Mulatto, mule, right? Okay. Insulting names. Quadroons, 1/4. Octoroons, 1/8. And so on and so forth. They had quadroon balls, octoroon balls in New Orleans. Like, you need to know your history so we can say goodbye to it. We have to first look at it and go, I see this now. Goodbye. Do you understand? We can't move forward. It's kind of like, every fucking religion has a history of molesting children. Every single fucking one. Okay? Sad as fuck, man. Sad. But we have to acknowledge that we need to fucking make sure that these people never feel safe pulling that shit on our children ever again. And some of them will self-exile. That's my thought now. As we build our communities, many of them will go, I have these weird, you know what, I'm just going to self-exile. My God, we used to self-exile for less than that. We would self-exile because we were different, because we were psychic, because we were telepathic, because we could do shit that we couldn't explain. And we were afraid the village would think that we were demonically possessed. So we would self-exile into the woods. And they would come to us for healing herbs and tinctures and things of that nature and teas. They would call on us as midwives or druids. Do you get what I'm saying? So we used to exile because we were afraid that they'd be afraid of us. You don't think a pedo's not going to self-exile realizing, yeah, I probably shouldn't be here. I got some weird. But eventually, do you think that wiring will be part of the 5D template? No, it's not. 5D template does not connect to torture. It doesn't connect to cannibalism. It doesn't connect to evil. Deviancy, deviant sex. And by the way, polyamory is not deviant. I'm definitely not a polyamorous person at all. I'm monogamous, but that's not deviant. Being gay is not deviant. Being bisexual is not deviant. But liking fucking children is deviant. Wanting to harm human beings is deviant. Hence, 50 Shades of Grey, the series of 3 books, was deviant. I was hoping the end of the book, and again, I skimmed through it. I couldn't read. It was vomiting shit. At the end, I'm hoping that he woke up and got into tantric sex. No, she got turned out and they had a baby. Can you imagine having a baby with that energy? Can you imagine having a baby tantrically, saying, today, I'm ovulating, I want to meditate a little bit, let's make love, let's do this meditation. What kind of soul do you think you're going to bring as opposed to fucking doing kink shit? What kind of shit? Do you see, this is what I talk about sex. And I've been accused by men, of course, men get so, not all men, of course, but too many men. I have been accused. I'm the most monogamous, loyal woman you'll ever meet. I have been accused of being, you're hypersexual. You're always talking about sex. No, I talk about clean sex, tantric sex. What are you hiding? What's in your hard drive? What's going on? Little boy Bobby, that you're afraid of talking about sex. Or a woman, a grown-ass woman, who wants to talk about healthy, empowering sexual behavior as opposed to weird-ass, hedonistic, deviant shit. I have had so many men try to shame me on this, and of course they failed. Because I'm the wrong bitch to do that on. And the problem is that men are afraid of powerful high priestess who know about the chakras and about sex. in its power. So don't be afraid of talking about sex to a man. If he's afraid of you, fucking please don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out, baby. I got you. Here, I'll send the rest of your shit. Don't worry about it. Does that make sense? Because you see, porn is done in a darkened room. And if it was so good for them, they would tell every girlfriend, every wife that they're doing it. They would tell them. Oh, again, 10 minutes, I've been blocked by the internet. Okay. But let me tell you something that I have to say about my father's generation. They all had Playboy in their closet, and I don't mean hidden, at least not in his case. They had Playboy, they had Penthouse. So there were two magazines that was in the 70s. You know what I found that was interesting? As I became 15, 16, looking at them to see what was every fucking girl, I don't care if she was 25, they were all 19. Didn't matter. Oh, 20, 19. What's the waist size? 19 inches. How old is she? She's 19. What's her waist size? 20. It was insane. I saw a pattern of near pedo shit. Meaning they looked like they were 14, 15, but, the age was 19. Didn't matter if they were 27. It was always under. It was either 20 or under. That's my memory of it, but it's not like I went through every fucking magazine. But I'll give him credit. At least it was right there in the closet where my mom saw it. It was normalized to the point where I remember my mom pulled out some of his magazines. We lived in London with my aunt who was 20, and we were looking through them. All of us, my aunt who was 19, my mother who was in her 20s, and me who was 10, looking at these magazines, trying to figure out what was so involving, right? And this concept of comparing women to women, is a real thing that was manufactured by a machine. Comparing your waist size, I remember when I was a kid in the 70s, where all the women said they weighed 120 pounds. Didn't matter if they were 5'10" or 5'4". And so women who were really healthy, 144 pounds at 5'6", 135 pounds at 5'7", which they should have said, and were slim, they were sizes small, felt like they were too overweight, creating a sense of lack of self-worth. And the competition constantly being a pressure point for every woman I've ever met. That's why I hate when people go, I want to go back to the 70s. Why? All my girlfriends were bulimic? Where the smell of vomit was in every bathroom in high school? Are you okay here? Where people didn't eat in front of boys? It's like insane. Seriously, I'm not being funny. We need to understand what created our society that made us so sick. And now what's caught up is our food is sick, making us sick, quite literally. You shouldn't eat fucking meat. I'm just going to straight out tell you, unless you can afford the fucking best, unless you can go to a rancher and know that side of beef is yours, and he's going to butcher it in steaks and filet mignon and whatever the fuck else you're going to get, don't fucking eat meat. Don't eat any ground meat. Anything ground, do not eat it. Eat fish. If you must, eat fish. Because that fillet they can't fuck with. It's a fillet. They can't fuck with it. Make your own food from scratch. Get whole chickens. Whole chickens. Don't get anything ground. Grind it yourself. I'm telling you, be in control of what you take, because depression isn't just your environment. It's the lack of nutrition. You're not feeding your brain. So your depression isn't your fault, by the way. It's the environment. Why do I know this? Well, because we know that schizophrenia, it's not a doctor's recommendation. I'm not a physician here, just disclosure. That when they gave people, they actually fed their brains, meaning they gave them good food, nutrition, that suddenly schizophrenia was gone. Oh, shocker. Shocker. Eat a lot of beans. Don't give a fuck about the farts. Then take dandelion tea. Eat bitters. Take bitters to offset the beans. Put vinegar in your beans when you're cooking them. I'm telling you all this because I want you to be powerful right now, because shit's going to get real. Shit is going to get real, and you need to be fit, strong in your mind. You need to be fed. You need to have your cells fed. Do you get what I'm saying? Everything is in perfect order, in perfect timing. You are winning. You're not losing, you're winning. Justice is being served little by little, and they're taking the low-hanging fruit right now. Low-hanging. Because they want to protect their lifestyle. If you're my neighbor and I give you a dozen eggs, and you have goats and you give me a pound of butter, I don't need to go to a supermarket and buy anything, do I? Neither do you. If I grow an apple orchard and I make vinegar and apple cider and apples and apple sauce, and I'm a meat eater, I'm not, but in this case I'm going to play along, and you have chickens and and I'm giving you a basket, a huge basket of apples and vinegar, and you give me 3 chickens and 2 dozen eggs, I'm good to go. I'm really well fed. You're really well fed. That's what we're building, my friends. That's our vision. Don't worry about the rest. How do you think people travel? We're finally realizing Vikings came to America. Hello? Vikings on those ships through the Atlantic. When was the last time you really looked at the Atlantic? I wouldn't swim in the Atlantic Ocean if you paid me $100,000 on the table. There's a lot of oceans I've swam in. The Mediterranean Sea and the Pacific, to name 2. And African oceans, meaning Ghana, to be specific, and Algeria, which would be the Mediterranean. But the Atlantic, I wouldn't fuck with the Atlantic. And these Vikings fucking, they landed here. And whatever's in the Grand Canyon, it looks like Egyptians made it here too. How did they make it here? What was their power? Was it the collective mindset of we're gonna calm the ocean? I just thought of that as I'm talking to you. Was it that these Vikings and these Egyptians and God knows others would actually collectively calm the fucking ocean, so it was, the wind was good and the ocean was like glass? I don't know, I'm not a fucking sailor, but I do know the collective mindset. I know what we did when Australia was burning and it looked like it was never ending, and a collective meditation went worldwide, email on your time zones, and we all showed up all over the world. It could have been 144,000 of us. I don't know, but we fucking sat down on that timeline, my timeline for Los Angeles, and I sat for those 10 minutes seeing rain in Australia, and within like less than 24 hours, it began to rain. Torrential rains that ended the fire, that would not stop. They could not stop it. So I would suppose that what was impossible for sailors was very possible. They mindseted themselves to be in Egypt, from Egypt to America, because they're certainly lying and protecting us from the Grand Canyon's incredible hieroglyphs and very Egyptian-like sculptures. And again, going back to Antarctica, these weird ideas that we can't go there. And Admiral Byrd, who talked about his excavation there and what he found there. Jules Verne was a great writer who talked about 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Was he channeling? Do you know why I'm asking you that? Because in I think it was in the late 80s, they found an old book that he had written, some notes, and he was talking about the fax machine. In the 1800s, in the 1880s, 1890s, he was talking about fax machines. He'd been talking about submarines. He talked about helicopters. Do you get what I'm saying? In the quiet, before we had satellites, we could download. What created our slave minds was religions. They would stop us from kicking in to the silence of the night, the downloads of just the wind and the birds and the rivers, and we would just be there by lamplight writing. And we had to hide what we were saying. Nostradamus wrote his downloads in quatrains that people still can't fucking really figure out until after the fact. Oh, TikTok. Again, visibility. Let me tell you what they write so you know. Live visibility restricted for 10 minutes. Your live is not eligible for recommendation, is restricted in search results for 10 minutes due to low visual quality or static imagery, which does not meet your feedback or whatever. In other words, they're telling me that, I'm not eligible because they don't want my message out. And to me, like I said, any banned book is worth buying. Any banned live is worth watching. If it's banned, I'm on. If it has 6,000 people listening, I don't know. They're probably following the rules. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of following the rules. The rules made by men and women who want us to be slaves. So all the things I just talked about, which I think is very interesting to me, is the concept of our collective mindset and how we can actually shift realities and walk right into 5D. I've been troubled by the fact that we're still here, to be honest. And then I realized, and I spoke to other spiritualists who said, we have to witness what was hidden in the dark, deviant caves of humanity. All of it must be revealed, and then we will be freed, and we will be catapulted to 5D. I'm going to go with that one, because that one makes sense. So, yeah, my love, truth coming out, exactly. So, I'm all in, and I'm very happy to say that many of us, probably all of you that are listening to this, even after it's recorded and it'll be on YouTube, we're going to be here to watch it. Some of us may have a handful of years left to watch the joy of 5D, watching you guys in your youth enjoying the fruits of this long, laborious, painful revolution of consciousness. And I'm happy to note that many of us are going to see its birthing, its full birthing, the first cries of humanity's freedom. This planet was never a prison planet. This planet was sold to us as a prison planet by reptilians and their dogs, their rabid dogs, their little slaves. And many people in the spiritual community think they're clever in throwing that as a truth about this planet. It isn't. And as an Akashic reader who's seen many, many planets and many sentient beings who I've never seen described, some humanoid, some not, I'm here to report. This planet's amazing in all of its diversity and its people's diversity. And we need to take it back from the reptilians and to move forward. If you want more information on this, on the reasoning behind all of this, I urge you to go look up David Icke, I-C-K-E. Do your research. Look at go back to his old videos. I'm talking about old, late 80s, early 90s, that kind of thing. And you're going to fucking see that these people were talking about this a long, long time, and no one believed them, and everyone was accused of being a conspiracy theorist like it was a put down. And it isn't. They're telling me to talk about John Kennedy, so I'm going to talk to you about John Kennedy. We know that his life was taken. We know that his plane was fucked with, and the control system, so he couldn't see. He didn't know what up or down was. We know that there were certain things put into place. There were two things that were going to happen. In his magazine, George, he was going to expose who had taken his father's life. And two, he was the Prince of America. He was royalty. And whatever he ran for, senator, president, he was going to win. And he was a threat. He was a threat. And he was a good man. And good men are never allowed to thrive in the reptilian jail planet. They're not allowed to live. They're not allowed to thrive. That is about to change. And my female sisters, my beautiful sisters out there, have hope. We are protecting our good men. They will thrive, and they will be your lovers and partners, your beloveds. You will not be alone. You will be walking shoulder to shoulder as powerful equals, as shamans together. No one's walking behind the other. And no one is going to be second best. And no one's going to be oppressed or suppressed. That is the new earth. Anything less than that is a toxic, deviant template we are no longer going to be a part of. All right. Right ear is ringing. I love it. Yeah, he was a big threat. Much love on your journey. I'll have this uploaded on YouTube. Follow me on YouTube at Sacred Intimacy Tarot. By the way, I'm going to be removing tarot. I'm more interested in sacred intimacy. Okay? Just so you know. And you might have also noticed that on my TikTok, it says sacred intimacy. It no longer says tarot. And because I need to show you there's more to our journey. I love tarot. Don't get me wrong. I love it. And I still do it. But there's more. Okay? There's more for us to consider. More for us to heal. And our leaderships, all of us, we need to step it. Let's be the 144,000 promised to this planet. Let's start doing it all together. Namaste. Be well.